With the upcoming release date of Aces of Thunder right about on the horizon, I wanted to explore the game and show you what you should expect actually from the game. I know a lot of you are curious about the menus of the game, of the controls, the options, and what you can do, and actually what will you get when you buy the game on release date. So in this video, we're gonna go and explore what War Thunder can offer us. I will show you the 2D version as well as the 3D version of the game that's in VR. And I'll try to go through the different menus and show you what you can do, what you can tweak, and overall what you should expect from this World War II era version of War Thunder, more or less. Just to give you some basic things overall before we get started, with Aces of Thunder, there are a lot of different things happening. While it may look at this as the same engine as War Thunder, it's been reworked and modified properly in order to take into consideration the VR aspect of interaction with your hands. So this is something that is going to be a quite good selling point, simply because for people playing on PS5, for example, right now you cannot play War Thunder in VR, but in Aces of Thunder you will be able to play Aces of Thunder in VR on your PS5 with a stable frame rate and with your headset and controllers. So first we're gonna launch the game into a 2D mode just because I want to go in and show you the menus and the settings, and after that we're gonna move on to the VR part of the game, and I also want to show you some controls that you need to be aware of when moving your head and interacting in VR. So another important thing when you launch Aces of Thunder, especially in the Steam library, is that you can select Aces of Thunder in OpenXR mode or to play Aces of Thunder in a regular flat 2D game mode, or you can leave it as asking when I'm starting the game. This will basically pop up a menu that looks like this, that will give you the option to launch the game in OpenXR mode or play it in 2D. Just quick note for everyone who's playing with virtual desktop or don't want to install Steam VR. Thanks to the fact that this game can run in OpenXR mode, this means that you don't need to install Steam VR to play this game in VR on Steam. If you're running virtual desktop on your PC and on your VR headset and you're playing wirelessly, as long as you have selected VDXR as an OpenXR runtime, you will be able to play the game without having to install Steam VR, which is a great thing because VDXR is quite optimized for play, and you can also launch Aces of Thunder inside of Virtual Desktop, which also will make the game run better on the Virtual Desktop OpenXR runtime. Let's start the game in 2D mode and let's move on from there. So now we're in Aces of Thunder. First, I'm going to show you what planes are you going to get with the game. Just quick disclaimer before we continue. I just want to let you all know that this is early access to the game that I was provided by Gaijin from one of the community managers, and I'm very thankful. But keep in mind, I'll keep my review honest and I'll share my thoughts based on what I see because I believe it's the right thing to do, and also I can give some feedback to the developers with the hopes that those things can be addressed if something's not okay for the official release of the game. So first off, let's start with the planes in the section menu. So for the USA, you're gonna get the P51C10, the P47D-22RE, and the P63A5 and the SB2C4. Keep in mind you will get skins for those, for each plane actually. What makes this great is that you unlock these and you can unlock also decals, digital numbers, and all other sorts of things, but this will happen through gameplay. The moment you buy the game, you will get access to all of these planes as well as all the other nations and all the planes from the other nations. So next up, let's see what we get for Germany. For Germany, we're gonna get the BF109F4, the FW190A4, the BF109G2 Trop, and the BF110G2. For the USR, we're gonna get the Yak-9T, the LA-5FN, the Yak-3, the Il-2M from 1943, And for the British, we're gonna get the Spitfire, the Typhoon MK-LBL, the Firefly FR MK5, and the Mosquito FB MK6. For Japan, we're gonna get the A6 M3 Mod 22, the KI61I Day, the J2 M2, the D4Y 3KO, and here we get to the fun part, which is actually one of my favorites personally for me, based on what I've been testing. We're gonna get to the Central Powers, where we're gonna get planes from World War I era. That's the Fokker DR1 and the Fokker DR7. And for the entire allies, we're gonna get the Sopwith F1 Camo and the Spad S8. This is actually something that makes it very interesting and that makes me want to play the game even more, simply because the fact that we had a World War I event in the game, but it wasn't that polished, and with this planes we can actually interact a little bit with the cockpit. I'll show you that in a second, but overall I just wanted to show you these things. So while we're in the first section with the planes, I'm gonna show you the game modes and all the buttons and what they do, so you can have a better understanding of what to expect when the game launches. So if we go into a test flight, here we can customize our loadout, and depending on the plane that we have and so on. Keep in mind, everything that you get is already unlocked. It's not something that you need to unlock, and that's what makes it interesting. So here we can control the fuel, and if we select test flights, the game is going to put us into an actual test flight. So if you go to the first section on single mission, here we will have our single player campaign. This is where you can play with different planes that are already predefined per mission. You can control, do you want to have limited fuel or not, but that's it. The challenge rating will be different on each mission. For example, on Hunt for Trains, it's going to be normal. For recruits, new recruits, it's going to be normal. But some missions will have challenge rating at hard, and you cannot change that. This is done simply because those are story missions, and with each mission, you're going to play with a different plane and basically have different objectives to do, and they also happen in different periods of time. So this will make it a little bit more interesting, and if you want to enjoy the single player campaign of the game, all the missions so far, you will have the opportunity to do so. I'll just quickly go through all the missions so you can see what they are. So the first one is Hunt for Trains, New Recruits, Surgical Strike, Meek and Mild, Guardian Angel, Jungle Cobra, Intercept and Shoot Down, Flight in the Mists, Leave Them Nowhere to Come Home 2, Spotters, Second Wave, Night Watch, The First Strike, and Palm's Last Tanks. I will later show you some of those missions just to see how they look. So next up, let's go and look at the custom battles. Here we can create a session depending on, do you want to be an operation, air domination. So for example, if I select the Kursk region, here is something that's quite interesting. Here we can actually select the day and time of the mission, like with specific hours, or you can make it down, morning, noon, day, evening, dusk, and night, which allows you to play those planes in night missions, which is something that I really love, and I wish we could have do that in War Thunder in simulator battles. We can change the amounts of weather, and we can go from everything from fog to clear to cloudy, partially cloudy, hazy, low cloud cover, rain, thin clouds, and even storm. Here you can also select any country that we want to, by mission, by symmetry, or we can select the number of players. For this one, I think we can go up to 32 players, which is quite decent. We can allow empty teams if we want to, and what's also incredible about this is we can include bots into the whole mix. So this way we can play the game, earn some points, and fight with bots, which for new players who are just starting with the controls and everything, this is going to be very useful. Maximum battle time we can increase to 6 hours even if we want to, which is pretty nice, which means you can create like a long session where you can hang out with friends. And for respawns, we can have 2 crews, 3 crews, or unlimited. This basically tells you how much times you can respawn after you die. So if we leave it to unlimited, you can respawn limitless times in the 6 hours, or we can make it like if you die, you get 2 crews, so the next time you die, you're out of the game. Here we can create a session. We can select also what plane we want to have. I can also change the team, and let's go back. Sorry. So if we go to game modes again, I want to show you something else here. And once you're ready, you can just press to battle, and we're gonna jump into the actual battle. If we go back to this menu, I'm gonna show you what this button actually does. This is actually for new players, and for people who never played the game. This will basically give you the basic controls or how planes work if you're someone new who just is getting into Ace of Thunder or who's just curious how propeller planes work. Those are just the basics. They will tell you what you need to pull and so on. This is just for the basic controls. Here is how you need to take off, because propeller planes are a little bit different and they are literally giving you the instructions of how you can take off and also how to dogfight. They explain you how to spot targets, how to approach the targets, what distance you should keep, and also what you need to do. The very basic beginners, but this will give you a proper understanding of what you need to do if you never played. And before we continue, actually another thing that I forgot to mention is that inside of the game modes, besides the single missions that you can play through the game, you have a section called War Tales at the bottom. And here you can finish the different War Tales, like becoming the pilot, Don't Let Us Go Blind, and others. They are sort of with similar scenarios like the single missions, but these ones are a little bit more cinematic and much more story oriented, so I would highly recommend you to check those out as well. And what's great about this is that you have access to all of them from the start. Next up, let's go to the second panel. Here we have the camouflages for the different planes like I showed you just in the beginning, and we also have decals. Everything you see here can be unlocked doing missions and so on, so that's the only thing you're gonna earn in the game. You will have access to all the planes and everything you need. Here are all the different types of decals that we have, similar to what we have in in War Thunder. Just want to quickly show you what's in here. Next up, we have the achievements. Here you can track all your achievements and progress. You have daily challenges and you can reroll them, so you can get another challenge if you want to. But basically this is the way you can earn the decals and the skins for the different planes. Next up is the monthly leaderboards. Here you can see how you've been performing based on the other players and everything else. The next important section we need to look at is the control tab. Here is everything that we need to predefine in order to fly. Keep in mind, I'm using custom controls, and by default, custom controls have a lot of things already set up for you. If you prefer, you can use the gamepad options. Those work in a similar fashion like in War Thunder for those who have played it. But we're gonna stick with custom controls and I'm gonna show you why. So in order to fly the game, if you're using a HOTAS or HOTAS system in my case, where I have a throttle, a stick and pedals, there are a few important things that you need to keybind. Everything else you can leave it by default, or you can see what it's keybind to, but for me I need to keybind pitch axis, roll axis and yaw axis to my HOTAS system. For pitch and roll axis I use my stick. For the yaw axis I use my pedals, since I have Thrustmaster pedals, in order to move my plane slightly left or right. And for throttle I use Thrustmaster's Warhawk HOTAS to fly. I personally prefer to hold throttle for web off. The other thing that you want to keybind are the left and right brake. For me, I keybinded those to my pedals so I can slightly correct my plane while I'm on the ground before I take off. For small caliber guns and large caliber guns I use the same button. You can set different triggers depending on what you want to do. Also, you want to have reload guns, start and cancel operation to be keybinded, drop bombs and fire rockets. For toggle gear up, I use a single button, and every time you press it, it goes up and down. Just another thing to keep in mind, at least this is a problem in War Thunder, but you need to test it for yourself to see if this happens here in Ace of Thunder. If you play with a Thrustmaster Warhawk or any other HOTAS, that when you have switches, like for example on the Thrustmaster Warhawk, when you pull the switch up, it will toggle your gear up, but if you open the menu and you close the menu, if the switch is still up, it will reactivate the toggle gear option on. So if you play with switches instead of just buttons, you want to press the switch up and then press it down again to turn it off. Otherwise, the moment you open the menu and you enter back in combat, if your plane has a retractable gear system, they will pop out and they'll break mid-flight, and that's something you want to avoid. For flaps, I keep binding it flaps down and flaps up separately, because on my throttle I have a switch that allows me to go through the different modes. If you play with a HOTAS system that have only buttons, or if you play with a controller, you can just stick with toggle flaps. This will automatically switch between flaps up and flaps down every time you press the button. The other thing you need to keep in mind is the toggle air brake and also the engine start. Everything else you can leave by default. For those of you who want to trim their aircraft manually, you have those options, but I will show you what's different in Aces of Thunder that we don't have in War Thunder, and this is something that I really enjoy about this game. The last button you want to keybind for the plane's interaction is leave plane. This is a button that you need to hold. The moment you hold it, timer will pop out on your screen and that will tell your pilot to eject from the plane. For everyone who plays in VR, the most important thing is reset tracking position. Whenever you sit in a neutral position on your chair, or depending on when you look forward, you press this button combination. You can set it to multiple buttons. I did it like this so I don't accidentally press something to recenter my view. But basically this recenters your entire view to look forward in the center of the plane. And for controls, everything else I left by default. Since I don't need to change anything, all the other controls are like this and they're fine. Now let's move on to the options. So if we start here in the sound, you have just access to music if you want to listen to that, and sound effects. I lowered the sound effects volume because I'm trying to explain everything to you. Here you can switch out the audio devices that you have depending on where you want to listen to your audio. In the graphics tab, on PC at least, we have a resolution. In my case, I've selected auto select because it will switch to the monitor resolution that I'm playing. For modes, I personally prefer to play in full screen windowed. I don't like full screen, personal preference, but you can choose through the different modes that you want to. For monitor, I have one monitor, so on auto select should be just fine. If you have multiple monitors, you can select them from here. Enable VR is off simply because I'm not using my VR at the moment, but you can toggle it through here. Just keep in mind when you toggle enable VR, it may still be a little bit tricky at the moment with the current build. I personally would leave it off. If I want to start the game in VR, I'm gonna exit the game and launch it directly in OpenXR. Enable HDM mask removes the black borders around your screen that happen while you play in VR. So if you're planning to capture gameplay content for YouTube or any other platform, you want to enable this on. Otherwise, you have black borders around the screen. Keep in mind this is a little bit resource intensive because the game is forced to render a little bit more than it sees in other scenarios just to display everything on your screen. And this one is actually also important, the display mirror source. In VR, you have left eye and right eye. And basically this tells your PC what you want to capture on the screen. So if you're using OBS like I do to capture gameplay, this is the eye that the game will display on your screen. Depending on do you have a right eye dominant or left eye dominant, you can choose here which one you prefer to capture from. For me, it's my right eye. Never select both eyes because what it will do is it's gonna split the screen in two pieces and it's gonna show your left eye and your right eye at the same time. And this will not help you achieve any good results if you're planning to upload on YouTube. So personally, I prefer to stick with right eye. For interface, here you can choose what kind of measurement units you want to prefer. I live in Europe. I'm used to kilometers per hour, meters, and measurement of Celsius for temperature. Depending on what you want, you can choose the indicator altitude by biometric and radar altitude. Personally, I prefer biometric and radar altitude because I know how far I am from the ground and as well how far I am from above seawater level. It's just a personal preference, but it's up to you. For comfort, here we come to the actually interesting parts where you need to be aware of. I would highly recommend turn off vibration off if you're planning to play with a HOTAS. If you leave this option on, your controllers for your VR headset will constantly vibrate while you're flying. So leaving this off is totally fine. If you don't have a HOTAS system though, and you want to feel the vibrations, turn this on. But for me, personally, I leave it off. The auto trim feature is something unique to Aces of Thunder and I really love it. It works similar to simplified controls inside of War Thunder, but basically what this does is it automatically trims your aircraft. Something that you have only in War Thunder for top tier planes that have ACES modes with dampening. But here, since we're flying propeller planes and those didn't have that kind of feature, the auto trim feature will help you if you're a new beginner pilot to counter the torque of the plane's rotor blades, moving the plane left or right depending on the model of the plane and what you're flying. So this feature helps me a lot when I play because it allows me to fly straight and not having to worry about having to counter the movement of the plane. Leave this on, you'll have a lot better experience. Short 2 tips on cockpit elements. This is something actually very interesting and unique to Ace of Thunder, something we don't have in War Thunder currently. In War Thunder, on the top left of your screen, you will always see your speed and everything that you have for your plane, as well as altitude, what bombs you have selected or something like that. In Ace of Thunder though, if you enable this, every time you look at the cockpit and the instruments inside of the plane with your head, there will, if you don't know how to read instruments, you don't have to worry about this. The moment you look at a specific instrument, below you it will pop out as a text. So this way you can quickly check your instruments without having to worry, am I too fast or am I running low on fuel and things like that. Personally, like to turn it off because I got already used to reading the instruments and understanding what's what. But if you're a new player, I would highly recommend you to leave this on. And the last section is privacy that I can show you. Here you can hide your nickname or you can leave it as it is so other people can see you. If you're a content creator who doesn't want to reveal himself, this may help. But some people I know like to fly in display user ID. Others just want to change the players' nicknames, and I personally like to fly without any changes. Basically, I can see against who am I flying and so on. And that's it for all the options in the menus for Ace of Thunder. So once we got all those out of the way, let's launch the game in VR and I'll show you how to use the controls inside of the menu and what you can do. Some of the benefits that you have inside of VR that you don't have on 2D flat screen, at least at the moment. So here we are in Ace of Thunder. This is how the game looks in VR. We're placed next to our plane. I have my two controllers here in my hands. I can, with your left hand, you will hold the tablet, which is like the menu where you can access everything like skins, planes, and different game modes. Here you can also adjust controls if you want to. Personally, I prefer to do that in 2D view because I have a little bit more access to it. Just quick note from the developers that when the game launches, you will be able to control the VR aspect of the game not only with the headset controllers, but you'll also be able to use a gamepad or a mouse. And this is very good news for people who play on headsets like Big Beyond 2 or any other VR headset that doesn't have controllers, because with the current version of the game, you need a controller to select planes and interact with the menu. But once the game officially launches, this will not be a problem for you. Just quickly, I want to show you something that you can do inside of the hangar here while we're looking around. For example, on my right controller, if I press my second trigger, this circle will pop out and it will allow me to relocate wherever I want. So in my case, I want to go there. And while I still have the bottom trigger pressed, I will press my main trigger, and that will teleport me to a specific location that I've pre-selected. So now if I use the stick on the right controller, I can turn and actually take a look at my plane, and I can go even closer to it, and I can inspect and see how those planes look. So for example, let's say we want to see the World War I airplanes, we can come and inspect them in here. Same goes for skins. We can preview how different skins look on different planes, and that's pretty nice and awesome. And I really love that because this way seeing what I'm grinding for is pretty nice personally for me, and it's a really good touch. Same goes for decals. You can see and interact with different decals once you unlock them. Since I don't have anything unlocked, I won't be able to show you, but at least you get the overall idea. And this is how you interact with the menu and with all the game modes. I will quickly jump into a test flight just to show you what you can do actually with your controllers and so on. So I hope this gives you a better idea of what's actually happening inside of VR. I want to show you something also that you can do, and just to inform you about some limitations that you may experience if you have a setup like mine where you have a chair that's with a mounted hotel system. And this is something I've forwarded towards the developers just to keep in mind. Keep in mind, not everybody will have a similar setup, but if you have a throttle like me right now, when I move my hand down here, I am actually hitting my throttle, my physical throttle, with my hand and the controller. So accessing the throttle with your hand sometimes can be very tricky if you plan to use the hands in combination with already predefined hotel setup. So if you're playing on a regular chair and you don't have everything mounted like I do, you should be totally fine. But in my case, this is sort of problematic. Also, another thing that you can do is if you hold your left controller and you press the move pad on the left side of it, you will get the toggle air brake, toggle flaps, and toggle gear, and you can move left and right, and you can control this the air brake, the brake, the gears, and the flaps from here. So if I press them like this, they should move. And also for those who want to control, for example, the cockpit manually, the interactions that you get into the plane are pretty nice, and I kind of love those. And everything works quite fine, and for details I can tell you the cockpits and everything is quite detailed. So that's what I want to show you quickly before we move on. And that's basically it, everything that you should be aware of for the game regarding the VR aspect or the 2D version of the game by far. But to finish this video properly, I wanted to show you some of the highlights from some of my missions that I played in the game and some of the really cool moments that I had in VR. So this video is for you guys. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it gives you a better idea of what actually you experience inside of Ace of Thunder when it releases. Enjoy the video.